guys, we're back in the shop. Still trying to get these bolts out of the cam sprockets. So I did get a little torch from Home Depot. We're going to try to put some heat on them. I'm going to try heating the breaker bar first. If that doesn't work, I also bought an impact driver. So I'll do heat and impact driver next. If that doesn't work, we'll do heat and the impact gun. If that doesn't work, I'm going to have to just weld some big nuts onto the bolts and get them off that way, and then buy new bolts to put it back together. So yeah, so hopefully this will work. So the loud pop was the gear actually jumped a tooth on the belt, so it didn't hold it well enough to get it loose with the heat. So I'm going to go ahead and try to heat it up again and use the impact driver on it this time. Frustrating. The tool's not even slipping, it's just the bolts are apparently way over torqued. Not too impressed with the company that put this engine together. It's Slow Motion Motorsports over in Columbus, Ohio. Just found a lot of bolts missing, bolts loose. These bolts are obviously way too tight, so I don't know if they put them on with an impact or what, but you can see on this gear that the wrench they were using to hold the gear slipped and broke a bunch of the teeth off, so just not very impressed with their work so far.
It's just trying to jump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Woo, dogs! I just had to come in here and give you some luck.
Good luck.
Yeah!
Hold on.
2 of them.
In about 2 weeks. We got it. Hopefully the other ones work.
That one will.
I've already tried them. This one here, I had half of the jack handle on the end of this. And your mom's standing on the engine stand.
See, I helped. You're welcome.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? We're back in the shop tonight. We went and borrowed my buddy's welder. Borrowed the 220 welder first, but unfortunately our plug on the wall wasn't the right one for the welder. So we took the 220 back and grabbed the 110. So what we're going to do is weld these nuts onto these cam gear bolts. We'll try to burn it in as good as we can with the 110 welder. Get the bolt good and hot, and then hopefully between the heat and being able to put more leverage on it with these nuts,
got him!
We'll be able to get those two bolts out of the exhaust cams and finally get the heads off and get this thing tore apart and order some parts and get started on putting it back together.
Holy tits, that was easy. And by tits, I mean crap.
Ta-da!
By tits, I mean crap. How does that work that well? I really did not think this was gonna work. To be honest, I had zero hope, or well, not hope, had zero belief that this was gonna work.
Just trying to get it out away from the... Man, that sucks that we're out of wire.
Because that other one will be down. And then 40 minutes from now, as you said, this red boy will be completely tore apart. 40 minutes, he says. Oh, you just gotta throw new.
Oh, wait, there is wire. What are we doing here, boys?
That's kind of what I was wondering. Gosh, he's getting.
I just got it slacked up. I just got it slacked up.
He's just getting senile, ladies and gentlemen.
It happens.
He's getting old.
Is that getting old?
Okay. Correction. He's old.
They say you're only as old as you feel, so pretty sure I'm like 136.
Precisely.
Approximately.
Give or take maybe half a year. 100. Shoot, boys, go ahead and zap that on there. Moment of truth.
Oh, come on. There she is.
Boom! Just like that.
That's her.
We should have just done this about a week ago. Just grab it with your hand.
I should. What do you think, stupid or something?
You know, what kind of idiot would do that?
That's it, kiddos. Finally got the freaking 4 cam bolts out of this. Wow.
Woo!
And burnt my fingerprints off.
It's alright, we can do crime now. So you can.
This is the cam cap, which these things don't have actual bearings. Just the cap itself makes the bearing. And it's pretty scored. Looks pretty bad. The cam itself, they're also scored pretty good. Take this one off and look at it too. So it's also pretty scored up. So I'm going to have to do some research on those and see what the options are. I don't know, maybe you can just replace the caps and polish the cams back down. I don't know, I'll just have to get online and look around and try to figure that out. I just noticed that it does have ARP head studs in it, so I was thinking we were going to have to order all new head bolts and replace them, because these are torque to yield, or the factory bolts are, but it's got ARP studs in it, so we should be good to reuse those, which is good news.
What did those do?
The little part in the center, the shiny part, goes right on the top of the valve stem. So, and then the lobe of the cam hits these. So when the cam comes around, it pushes this down, which pushes the valve down. So the cam actually rolls on this. When it comes there, it pushes it down. That's what I say, these back ones I was able to get with the rag doubled over, and these I can't even get with a single layer of rag, but that's why, because when I pulled it out, I could feel the spring move over, so because the valves are bent.
So the valves are bent on this one, or
This one.
so that's why they were tighter.
Huh?
That's why they were tighter.
Yes. I don't know if you could hear that, but when I pulled it out, you could hear the valve spring smack the side of it.
Yeah.
That's my theory, anyway. Torque these in opposite sequence of how you would torque them. So start at one corner, go crisscross. So when we torque them, we would go the other way. We'd start in the center and then crisscross. This would be the opposite. Alright guys, as you can see, the block is on the floor. I have two of the pistons taken out of it already and flipped it over, working on the other side. So went ahead and pulled the wrist pin clips out. You can see them laying there. So you work through this hole. You get in there with needle nose or snap ring pliers and pull the wrist pin clip out. And then you'll have to take something long from the other side and push the actual wrist pin out, and then you can push the piston up through the top and pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these other two out, and we're going to go ahead and try to split this block tonight and take the rods off the crank and see how bad everything is so we can decide how to move forward. There's a bit of bearing still in it, which is surprising, as much movement as it had. Looks like it spun. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, it looks like it spun that bearing. That's the one that was clunking back and forth. You can see it actually has a lip on the side where it was smashing the bearing off the side of the rod. The rod itself does have some damage. Have to put it back together and do some measuring to see how bad it actually is, but it definitely doesn't look good. So I'm thinking if we want to have this thing back running soon, then we're probably just going to use the whole bottom end out of the junkyard engine there, throw these pistons in it and go. That'll at least get him back on the road till he blows that one up. The crank, of course, is pretty beat up on that one. So I would say, yeah, at a minimum, we're going to need to use the crank out of the other engine. We'll talk it over and make a decision.
I don't know, it's something about engines that calms me down, you know?
Alright guys, that's going to do it for tonight. We got the engine apart, got the rods off the crank, looked at all the bearings and all the journals. As you saw, the one rod was in pretty bad shape. The bearing was pretty much gone. It had spun in the rod. It had also scored up the crank really bad, which we can see here. And the rod bearings laying there, but yeah, so it's in pretty bad shape, which we knew it was going to be when we saw that rod clunking back and forth the way it was. So we're going to have to talk it over, decide what's the best course of action. We can either just put the forged pistons in the other engine and put new head gaskets and the ARP studs in it and have it running pretty quick, or we can tear that one all the way down, take the crank and rods out of it, put new bearings in them, put them back in this block, and then put it all back together with those heads and build it that way. So we'll just have to look up some parts and decide what the best course of action is, but that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate all of you that have subscribed. Stay tuned. We'll have more videos coming as we figure out what we're going to do with it, get it back together, and get it back to ripping again.